It was supposed to be the height of dominance. A showcase of strength. A statement to the world that the new era of the bloodline, led by Solo Sikoa, was unshakable, untouchable, and unified in its vision of control. But by the end of WWE's Money in the Bank Premium Live event, unity had shattered. Brotherhood had dissolved. And Solo Sikoa was being rushed to a nearby emergency unit, unresponsive, his neck braced, blood soaking the tribal ink that once symbolized loyalty. What happened that night backstage wasn't part of any script. It wasn't a stunt gone wrong. It was a betrayal so raw, so personal, that even the most jaded WWE officials struggled to make sense of it. And at the center of the chaos stood one man, Jacob Fatu, staring down at Solo's broken body with the rage of a brother scorned and the silence of a man who had just made the darkest choice of his career. The night began like any other explosive WWE pay-per-view. Montreal's Bell Center was packed, vibrating with the energy of a sold-out crowd. Fireworks lit the sky. Fans screamed for the unexpected. They got more than they ever asked for. Earlier in the evening, Solo Sikoa had walked through the curtain with Hikuleo, Tanga Loa, and Tama Tonga, the supposed new pillars of the Bloodline 2.0. But even as he raised his hand in stoic command, whispers had already begun. Something was off. Backstage cameras picked up strange interactions before the match even started. Jacob Fatu, the enforcer, the war machine of the family, was seen pacing alone in a dim hallway near gorilla position, fists clenched, jaw tight. A backstage crew member later told WWE Digital, he wasn't lacing his boots. He wasn't hyping himself up. He was staring into space, like a man wrestling with a decision that could change everything. By the time Solo entered the ring, those closest to the locker room already knew tensions were simmering. Reports from insiders say that in the week leading up to Money in the Bank, Jacob had been isolated. He'd stopped responding to Heyman's texts. He had skipped one of the official pre-show production meetings. But no one imagined what would happen just minutes after the closing bell following Solo Sikoa's successful interference in the main event match, a brutal distraction that helped cost Seth Rollins his chance at reclaiming the World Heavyweight Championship. The arena was chaos. The fans booed. Security scrambled. Paul Heyman was nowhere to be seen. And then, in a moment that wasn't captured by the live broadcast but quickly leaked through cell phone footage, Jacob Fatu stormed the ring, eyes blazing. Solo barely had time to turn. The first blow came fast, a Samoan spike, delivered not to an opponent, but to the tribal heir himself. The crowd went silent. Cameras in the crowd caught Solo's stunned expression as he dropped to one knee, coughing violently, blood already pooling in his mouth. But Jacob wasn't done. What followed was an assault so personal, so violent, it blurred the line between performance and reality. Jacob Fatu hoisted Solo up and slammed him headfirst into the exposed turnbuckle. Not once. Not twice. 3 times. Unprotected. No pullback. The sound echoed like a gunshot. A second later, Jacob dragged Solo outside the ring, slamming him spine-first onto the steel steps. Security rushed out, but they were too late. By the time they reached the scene, Jacob had already leapt off the barricade, delivering a terrifying moonsault onto Solo's prone body. Then he disappeared, through the crowd, into the shadows, without saying a single word. Backstage, WWE officials scrambled. The event was still live, but production cut to a promotional package. Paramedics were rushed through the gorilla position. Solo Sikoa was found backstage 10 minutes later, lying unconscious near the locker room hallway, having somehow made it back there before collapsing. According to emergency responders, his breathing was shallow, his pulse erratic. A neck brace was applied. Oxygen administered. Blood pressure dropping. The scene was not just dramatic. It was real. WWE senior medical official Dr. Chris Amon reportedly made the decision within seconds. Solo Sikoa had to be transported immediately. Not to the local Montreal ER, but to a trauma unit prepared for high-impact sports injuries. The message to officials was short, but chilling: possible spinal trauma. Internal bleeding not ruled out. Prep the OR just in case. and yet, no one had any answers. Why? Why would Jacob Fatu, the one man who stood beside Solo during the bloodline's darkest moments, turn on him in the most public, brutal way possible? The answers didn't come quickly. But the whispers started. Paul Heyman, uncharacteristically absent for the night's final segment, was reportedly seen leaving the arena 15 minutes before the attack. Some insiders say he knew something was coming. Others believe he'd already been cut out of the plan. One anonymous source told a WWE producer, this was between the brothers. Not even Heyman could stop it. It wasn't long before footage leaked online, a grainy, low-resolution clip captured just 2 days before Money in the Bank. It showed Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu in a heated argument outside a private gym in Tampa. The audio is mostly inaudible, but one line is clear. Jacob, his voice cracking, shouts, "I didn't come here to bow to you." That clip, viewed over 6 million times in 24 hours, sent the internet into a frenzy. Had Jacob Fatu finally reached his breaking point? The betrayal had been building, but the signs were subtle. During a June episode of SmackDown, cameras lingered for just a moment too long on Jacob as Solo claimed himself the rightful tribal chief. His expression? Stone cold. No applause. No nod. Just a long stare. In hindsight, it was the first public fracture in a bond that once seemed unbreakable. Inside the hospital, Solo Sikoa was stabilized. Doctors confirmed a severe concussion, several cracked ribs, and signs of internal bruising near the lungs. But it was the emotional damage that hit harder. Sources close to the family say that as Solo regained consciousness, the first thing he asked wasn't "Where am I?" or "What happened?" It was, "Did Jacob mean it?" No one could answer him. Roman Reigns, who had been absent from television for months, was reportedly contacted immediately. According to a backstage source, he received a 30-second video clip of the attack and watched it in silence. Then he uttered just 2 words, "He warned me." That comment alone sent shockwaves through those close to the former tribal chief. What did Roman know? Had Jacob Fatu signaled this betrayal long before it played out? Paul Heyman issued no official statement. But late that night, he was photographed entering a private residence in Orlando where Rikishi was believed to be staying. The patriarch of the Anoa'i family had been silent through the recent chaos, but now, his 2 sons were at war. A family war that could no longer be hidden behind WWE cameras. WWE's response was swift. As Solo remained in hospital care, WWE security issued a formal internal suspension on Jacob Fatu, not as storyline punishment, but as a real protocol response. An investigation was launched into whether the assault violated contract conditions or crossed legal boundaries. While some insisted this was still part of the show, insiders confirmed that several WWE officials were not informed of the attack's full extent. One producer was quoted saying, "We were told to cue to black. We didn't know he was going off script." Fans lit up Twitter and Instagram. The hashtags trended worldwide. Hashtag Solo collapsed. Hashtag Jacob turned. Hashtag bloodline broken. Millions demanded answers. Others praised Jacob Fatu's raw, unfiltered violence as the shot in the arm WWE needed. But no matter what side they took, one truth remained universal. No one saw it coming like this. In the days that followed, small details trickled out. A voice memo leaked, allegedly recorded by a backstage crew member just hours before the match. In the background, Jacob Fatu is heard muttering, "He forgot who I am. He thinks he can lead, but he was never ready." They all bowed to Roman. "I bowed to no one." The voice is shaky, angry, but determined. In it, you can hear the pain. The betrayal didn't come from hatred. It came from love that had curdled. By day 3, Solo Sikoa was discharged from the trauma unit but was moved into a private rehabilitation center in upstate New York. WWE officials released a vague statement thanking fans for their support and stating that Solo Sikoa is recovering and under medical supervision. But behind the scenes, those close to him say his spirit was broken. According to a therapist on site, he hadn't spoken a word about Jacob. He just kept repeating one phrase, "We were supposed to be brothers." And in the midst of this silence, Jacob Fatu remained missing. No social media posts. No backstage appearances. No phone calls answered. WWE's legal team confirmed he hadn't responded to formal correspondence. But a single anonymous text message was reportedly received by an assistant producer on Raw. It simply read, "This was never about the spotlight. This was about respect." As the fallout deepens and the bloodline lies in ruins, the WWE universe is left with a haunting question. Was this the beginning of Jacob Fatu's rise, or the end of something sacred? And what happens when Roman Reigns finally returns to the battlefield he once ruled, and finds that his family has already gone to war without him? Because one thing is clear, Solo Sikoa isn't just fighting for recovery, he's fighting for answers, and the one man who has them may have already walked away. Solo Sikoa rushed to the emergency unit after Jacob Fatu betrayed and attacked him at WWE Money in the Bank. The days turned into nights, but the silence from Jacob Fatu remained absolute. No appearance on SmackDown. No cryptic promo. Not even a tweet. It was as though the man had vanished into the shadows he came from, leaving behind only blood, questions, and a family teetering on the edge of irreversible collapse. For WWE, the incident became a crisis that blurred fiction and reality, and the line between storyline betrayal and real-life violence was now under global scrutiny. But for Solo Sikoa, it wasn't about ratings or social media heat, it was about trust. And that trust had been shattered beyond recognition. Behind the walls of the private recovery facility in New York, Solo remained under constant watch. Despite WWE's public statement claiming he was in stable condition, the truth was more complicated. Insiders close to the situation revealed that doctors were concerned about Solo's cognitive responsiveness. He wasn't answering questions clearly. He wasn't responding to visitors. And most hauntingly, he refused to acknowledge his own reflection. One nurse reported he stared into a mirror for 10 minutes before turning away in silence, whispering the words, "I should have seen it coming." Family members visited in shifts. Tangaloa came first, shaken, nearly in tears, apologizing for not stopping Jacob in time. Tama Tonga arrived next, but the energy was different. Sources say he was angry, at WWE, at Jacob, and maybe even at Solo. "We let the wrong one lead," he reportedly muttered in the hallway before storming out. But it was Hikulio's visit that left staff stunned. The younger brother stood beside Solo's hospital bed for over an hour, saying nothing. He placed his hand on Solo's chest, then said, "They're going to come for us all now," and walked out, and still, no Jacob. WWE management convened an emergency closed-door meeting the following Monday. Paul Levesque, Triple H, sat at the head of the table. According to those in attendance, he looked exhausted. He had spent the weekend fielding media calls, handling insurance liabilities, and trying to determine if Jacob's attack had legal consequences outside kayfabe. Some production crew members wanted Jacob suspended indefinitely. Others feared suspending him would turn the fans even more against Solo. But then a producer posed the question that changed everything: what if this was Roman's plan all along? The room fell silent because deep within the company, and deeper within the Inoue family circle, a darker theory had started to take root. A theory that Roman Reigns, despite his extended absence from WWE since WrestleMania 41, had orchestrated this betrayal from the shadows. That he, not Solo, had chosen Jacob as the next tribal chief. That the entire bloodline reboot was never meant to elevate Solo, but to test him, and he had failed. Whispers of a recorded call began circulating among select WWE insiders. A voicemail, allegedly from Roman Reigns to Paul Heyman, left 2 weeks before Money in the Bank. No one knew who leaked it, but the message was chilling in its ambiguity. Roman's voice was low, tired, and deliberate. "Solo's too emotional," he said. "He's not ready to wear the crown. Jacob understands war. He knows how to survive." Was that a blessing, or a warning? Back at the recovery center, Solo began speaking again. Not often. Not loudly. But he was slowly regaining coherence. The first name he uttered wasn't Jacob or Roman. It was J.U.S.O. The one man who had left WWE entirely, walking out after WrestleMania and disappearing from TV. Solo reportedly asked for him repeatedly. "Call Jay," he said to a nurse. "He'll understand." But J.U.S.O. didn't answer the phone. Instead, what followed was even more jarring, a private voicemail sent back to WWE headquarters and later shared with select producers. It was Jay's voice, strained and emotional. "You want me to come back now? After all that? I told you, you let the wrong dogs off the leash. You turned your back on the ones who bled for this family. I'm sorry he got hurt. But maybe now, you see what Roman's blood really looks like." The implications were devastating. Even those who once stood beside Solo, like Jay, were now pulling away. Isolation. Betrayal. Silence. It wasn't just the body that was breaking. It was the identity. Days later, another video surfaced. This one came from a WWE staff member who had captured it unintentionally. It showed Jacob Fatu entering a black SUV after the attack. But before the door closed, he turned to someone off camera and said, he called himself Tribal Chief. "But I know the truth. He ain't blood. He's just next in line." That line, "he ain't blood," sent fans and insiders spiraling. Was Jacob questioning Solo's role in the family? Or was there something deeper, something more literal? Online forums exploded. Was Solo adopted into the leadership role? Did Jacob believe Roman made a mistake in passing the crown to him? Or was there a darker family secret waiting to surface? Back in the WWE locker room, the morale was split down the middle. Some superstars rallied behind Solo, calling Jacob's actions a disgrace to the locker room code. Others, quietly, began aligning with Jacob's ideology. One anonymous veteran said in a private interview, "Solo acted like a tyrant. Jacob saw it. And he did what no one else had the guts to do." But what about Roman? Still no public appearance. No promo. No video call. Just silence, and then, it happened. A cryptic message aired on SmackDown during the final segment. The lights flickered. The screen went black. And then, a pre-recorded voice, unmistakably Roman Reigns, speaking over static and distorted images of his former family. "You chose violence over vision. You chose fear over blood. You forgot what makes a chief. Jacob didn't." The screen cut to black. No confirmation. No location. No match announcement. Just words. But those words hit like a thunderclap. Backstage after that broadcast, Triple H reportedly demanded answers. "Is Roman working with Jacob?" he asked aloud in production. No one had an answer. Some believe it was an old voice recording spliced in to keep fans guessing. Others believe Roman is already orchestrating the next phase of bloodline warfare, a war not for titles, but for blood. Meanwhile, Solo Sikoa was discharged, but he didn't return to Florida. Didn't go home. Didn't go to the WWE Performance Center. He vanished, off-grid. One report from the New York Post claimed he was spotted near the Samoa Islands, boarding a private boat. Another claimed he was seen visiting a therapist in Northern California, far from the chaos of WWE. WWE refused to confirm or deny either, and Jacob, he reappeared, in silence. A 30-second clip posted to his Instagram story, just a shadowed figure standing in the rain, tribal necklace in hand. No caption. No audio. Just one movement, he drops the necklace to the ground and walks away. It's not clear whether it was symbolism or a warning, but this much is certain, the bloodline is now fractured beyond imagination. The war that Roman Reigns once led with whispers and mind games has become physical. Violent. Medical. Psychological. No one is safe. Not Paul Heyman. Not Solo. Not even the legacy of the family itself. And as fans, insiders, and legends try to pick up the pieces, only one question matters now. Who will be left standing when this blood feud reaches its final chapter? because the attack on Solo Sikoa was not the end. It was the beginning of a reckoning. There's an old saying in Samoan culture, you don't question the chief, unless you're ready to bleed for the crown. And now, that ancient code has come to life in WWE's darkest, most personal war. The crown that once symbolized unity within the bloodline has become a blade, sharp, cold, and dangerous, and everyone is bleeding. As the fallout from Money in the Bank spread through the WWE universe, shock morphed into obsession. Who was right? Who betrayed who first? Was Solo ever truly meant to lead? Or was Jacob Fatu the rightful heir all along? These weren't just fan theories anymore. They were questions being whispered in hallways, discussed in creative meetings, and even dissected in hushed tones by WWE legends watching from the sidelines. One such voice was Rikishi. He had remained silent for weeks, watching his sons destroy each other from afar. But then, late one night, a private Instagram live, not intended for the public, was leaked. In it, Rikishi is seen pacing in a darkened living room. His voice, heavy with emotion, breaks the silence. They turned this into war, he says. Jacob was family. Still is. But what he did to Solo? That's not what we taught them. Roman, he made this mess. He handed out titles without earning respect. He disappeared and left wolves to fight over scraps. My sons are tearing each other apart because no one taught them how to heal. That single clip, shared across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, was viewed over 25 million times in 2 days. It wasn't just the pain in Rikishi's voice. It was the weight of a father who knew something terrible was still coming, and he was right, because just as the world began asking where Roman Reigns was, he answered without music. Without fanfare. No entrance pyro. No crowd. Just a single, unexpected appearance. A pre-taped video aired during the final minutes of Monday Night Raw. Roman, seated in a dark, smoky room, spoke directly to the camera. The tribal beads were gone. His beard was thicker. His eyes tired, sunken, but focused. It was the face of a man who hadn't just stepped away from the ring, he had stepped into war. You want answers, he said, voice low and steady. Then listen closely. He took a breath. I gave Solo everything. A seat at the table. My blessing. My silence. And he used it to make himself king. But kings don't stab their own blood in the back to wear the crown. Jacob, he didn't betray the family. He saved it. He reminded us what this really means. You earn it. You bleed for it. And if Solo has a problem with that, he knows where to find me. And then it cut to black. Fans erupted. WWE social media imploded. Overnight, the internet dubbed it the reawakening. But inside WWE headquarters, there was panic. Roman hadn't told anyone he was filming that segment. Not even creative. It had been submitted through a private third-party production house with Roman's seal, and when TripleH demanded to know who cleared it, no one had an answer. The message was clear: Roman Reigns was no longer asking permission, and if his cryptic promo was the match, then what happened next was the explosion. 3 nights later, during SmackDown, the lights went dark mid-show. No entrance music. Just static. Then, leaked security footage from backstage played on the Titantron. It showed Jacob Fatu entering the WWE Performance Center at 2:37 a.m., hood over his head, walking alone through the empty training room. The cameras follow him as he reaches a locker with Solo's name still printed on it. Jacob opens it, removes a black towel. The same one Solo always wore around his neck, and throws it into a trash can. Then, with his bare hands, he sets it on fire. No commentary. No narration, just a message. The footage cut off. The crowd was stunned. Backstage, TripleH was livid. WWE had no knowledge this would air. Someone had overridden production. Speculation exploded again. Was Roman helping Jacob from the shadows? Was this the beginning of a hostile takeover? Or had WWE just completely lost control of the most personal storyline in its history? Meanwhile, Solo remained in seclusion. Not at home. not at the Performance Center, but in a private Samoan retreat owned by extended family members of the Inoai dynasty. A sacred ground. No cameras. No phones. No contact. A place where warriors are rebuilt. According to sources close to the family, Solo had gone there not just to heal, but to decide whether he would fight back or walk away. One night, a private message reached WWE headquarters. A handwritten note. No return address. No signature. But insiders say it came from Solo. 3 words: he's not chief. And with that, WWE was forced to confront the truth: the bloodline is no longer one tribe. It is now two. Solo Sikoa, hardened and broken, stands for legacy. For control. For what he believes Roman abandoned. Jacob Fatu, unchained and ruthless, stands for tradition. For respect earned through war. And somewhere in the shadows, Roman Reigns watches, not to lead but to judge. Paul Heyman, once the wise man at the center of all of this, has disappeared from television entirely. Insiders claim he's in talks with WWE about stepping away permanently. Others say he's working behind the scenes on something bigger. A masterstroke. One source close to Heyman says, he's building something none of us can see yet. And when it hits, it'll change the company forever. But until then, one final move is yet to be played. Sources now confirm that at the next premium live event, WWE SummerSlam, a match is being discussed behind locked doors. One that would not just be a match, but a reckoning. Solo Sikoa vs Jacob Fatu. No disqualification. No allies. No bloodline, just blood. And there's a rumor. A chilling one. That Roman Reigns himself will be the special guest enforcer, not to help, not to interfere, but to watch and to decide who deserves the crown. But for now, nothing is official. No contracts signed. No words spoken publicly, only silence, only war, because what began as a shocking betrayal has become something much darker, a spiritual collapse of the most powerful family WWE has ever known. And when the smoke clears, the crown will not go to the strongest, it will go to the last man standing. The WWE locker room hasn't been the same since. Some say you can feel the tension in the air, like a storm that never quite breaks. There's a subtle shift now when bloodline members walk through the halls. Conversations stop. Eyes follow them. And no one knows which side anyone is really on. Behind the cameras, the production crew calls it the silent divide. Even the catering tables have become war zones. Jacob Fatu loyalists sit on one side, refusing to acknowledge Solo's camp. Paul Heyman's absence looms large, like a ghost hovering over the family dinner table. And all the while, Roman Reigns remains unseen. His voice, heard only once in that ominous video message, has taken on the weight of prophesied, I and this new bloodline. No one knows who is in charge. And that's what makes it so dangerous. As WWE management prepares for what's being called the most volatile SummerSlam in a decade, internal security has quietly ramped up. Multiple off-duty police officers and private security personnel have been hired to monitor not just the crowd, but the backstage area. That's because sources inside WWE confirm a disturbing possibility: Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa may not wait for their official match. There are whispers. Whispers of retaliatory attacks. Whispers of unapproved promos. One producer confided, "This isn't like any storyline we've done. This isn't Edge vs. Orton. This isn't Cena vs. Rock. This is personal. They hate each other." And now, the fallout is starting to reach outside the ring. During a WWE live event in San Diego, a young fan held up a sign that read, "Bring back the real chief." Moments later, the lights flickered. For 5 seconds, Roman Reigns' theme played, then abruptly cut to static. The crowd erupted. But WWE officials were stunned. The tech team had not programmed it. Someone had manually overridden the system. That's when they realized, Roman Reigns isn't just watching. He's already inside the system. On the very same night, reports surfaced that Roman had filed a sealed internal memo to WWE's creative department. While the content hasn't been leaked in full, one section was reportedly titled Legacy or Extinction. A reference, many believe, to what's at stake in the war between Solo and Jacob. It's no longer about who wins, it's about who survives. Back in Florida, at the WWE Performance Center, trainers and medical advisors continue to track Solo's rehabilitation. His ribs remain tightly bound. His neck movement is restricted. But it's his silence that scares them most. According to one report, Solo hasn't spoken a full sentence since leaving the retreat. He trains in silence. He eats alone. He sleeps in the corner of the gym on a cot. One trainer said, "He's not angry anymore. He's something else. Like a soldier who's already died once." But even as he heals, a new fracture has begun to form. Within the extended Anoa'i family. Off camera, family members are choosing sides. Some believe Jacob's actions were the fulfillment of an unspoken tradition, a true warrior rising against a false king. Others believe Jacob crossed a line that dishonors their lineage. In one fiery exchange captured at a private gathering, a former WWE legend, name withheld, confronted Jacob's uncle and reportedly shouted, "You let that boy spit on everything High Chief Peter Maivia stood for." The tension now stretches far beyond the ring. It's generational. Spiritual. Deep backstage, Seth Rollins was reportedly overheard saying, "We're watching a real family collapse in real time, and the cameras just keep rolling." Even superstars outside the bloodline have expressed concern. Cody Rhodes, during a private fan event, said, "This is the most unpredictable stretch WWE has ever faced. It's not about belts anymore.